that damage.
You can't escape this.
Again? Hey, Foxtrots. So a new gacha just released last week, and already it's getting a lot of optics. You have the Arknights loyals trying to filter out tourists, you have other gacha communities comparing their game with it for better or for worse, you have the grinders and beta testers who know how to optimize the grind and other gameplay aspects that they are already 2 patches ahead, and then there's players like me who see a new shiny game that I'm genuinely eager to try, and I see no other reason than to try it for fun. Okay, that part is a slight lie. Perlica. Perlica is another reason. Now, jokes aside, Arknights Endfield's release, in my opinion, is not too much of a surprise. It did not launch flawlessly, since it had that PayPal incident, among other things. And as I said earlier, you have people who have played Arknights and are gatekeeping newcomers. Now, players of other gacha games who are comparing their game with Endfield for better or for worse, regardless if the comparison makes sense or not. Now, it is like saying Wuwa's combat is better than Zenless Zone Zero or vice versa. Now, when both have traits that make them stand out and different from each other, it kinda doesn't make any sense. Now, honestly, my view on this game pre-release was kinda normal. I think it looked cool, the characters looked cool, and it seemed like it had something going for it that I cannot find in that Endfield specific manner in other games, be it a gacha or a free-to-play game. Now, regardless, I was curious enough to try it out, and I had just about no bias towards the game. Now, after all, I have been a fan of Arknights since Endfield, and I stopped playing Genshin about 3 to 4 years ago, and I have played Wuwa and ZZZ until their latest seasons, or patches, and I am horribly addicted to Uma Musume. Now, I say this so you have an idea as to what my experience or scope is with gacha or free-to-play games, so you have an idea where I am coming from. Think of it like a resume, I guess. Now, also from this moment, I will call Arknights Endfield just Endfield for brevity's sake. Moving on to the game, Endfield lets you choose between 2 protagonists, male and female. They have a mask that honestly makes them look like a goofy penguin, even if the lore and character interactions suggests that our character is a big deal, which I think they are, so far. Our character is the Endministrator, effectively the head administrator of Endfield Industries, the company corporation group that we run, kinda like Black Shores in Wuwa. Now, Endmin, as we are called, is the nickname our character will be addressed by most of the time by characters, as we can also give our Endmin a name, so they have to find a way to address the player regardless of their name, quite like how in ZZZ, regardless if we play as Bell or Wise, we are called Proxy or Phaethon, and in Wuwa, we're called Rover. Now, the visuals of this game, I'll be honest, is absolutely stunning. I'm running this game at 2K 120 FPS without FSR on because, lol, I'm AMD and I am a loser expecting to have, games support FSR on launch. And it still runs pretty darn smooth in exploration, combat, and even when I am running the factory. But it can dip to about 90 or even 60, but it's not that noticeable, at least not jarring, so it's still pretty smooth overall. And also, if you noticed, I am running the game on a controller, since I feel the keybinds and shortcuts feel more intuitive for a controller. And I have friends who are playing on mouse and keyboard, and I haven't heard complaints from them yet. Now, one unfortunate gripe I do have to mention is that the Endmin is yet again an amnesia protagonist. This is honestly a trope that I think is overused and overplayed in games in particular. Rarely do they get it right, and it may just be a me thing, but I am honestly not a big fan of it. Now, one example of how I think it works well is the Dark Urge in Baldur's Gate 3, where the game does play around it very well. Now, I wish I could see more of that in gacha or free-to-play games like these, or honestly less of this trope used. ZZZ is one exception where Bell and Weiss have their memories intact, and honestly, I felt like that was a breath of fresh air. Now, in the opening sequence, we are thrown straight into the fire with some tutorials. You have your basic movement, jumping, knowing that we cannot run on walls. We have interactables such as zip lines, rope, and then of course, combat. Now, the combat of this game, in my opinion, can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. You can swap characters mid-combat or not, if you choose to, or if you choose not to. How you perform in combat, honestly, I think comes down to a couple of particular things. One is how you understand your operators. Two is how well you can make them synergize with each other. And three, understanding both of those as they interact with each other in combat. So combat centers around two resources. You have your skill points and your ultimate charge. Skill points are shared across all characters, with each character having their own internal ultimate charge. So to simplify it for you, skill points are spent to use your character's respective skills, triggering specific requirements which range from finishing a combo sequence to applying a debuff to an enemy will make a character initiate a combo skill. So do read how your character triggers their combo skill by going to their page. Pressing the respective keybind will make them execute a combo skill when you see their respective icons show up. Combo skills do not have a resource to spend, but they do have a cooldown as shown above your character's health bar. Your combat flow will in general follow this overall quote-unquote check. How efficient you are at spending your SP or skill points, how often and proper you are triggering your combos, and how well you are avoiding or healing damage as well to make sure your party is not kissing the floor before the enemy dies. So not long after that, we are thrown into Dijiang, our HQ in space. I honestly did not know this would eventually become our hub as a player, and I honestly love the fact that it feels like a living space together with our operators and other NPCs. Our world, which the playground we'll play on, is Talos-II, and specifically Valley 4 for Act 1 of the game. Already I am reminded that this is a different game simply because, well, at least for one particular reason, I have no glider. And number 2, I cannot run up walls. Now, while this may come as an affront to many players or a number of players, I see this as a fresh change. Potentially a hot take, I like it when games do not always follow popular trends and stick to their vision, especially if they can make it work. Try to think about it. If a map is so big that you need a glider or a motorbike or wall running, that is totally fine. But there is that level of scale that with these vehicles, with these movement technologies, right? With these movement techniques, the map needs to feel large enough and not restrictive that these skills, tools for exploration feel like on the border of you need them, and at the same time, it's nice that you have. Now, the maps of Endfield so far are large enough that walking doesn't feel too much of a hassle, but it does justify a little bit of the aspect of having fast travel points, zipline setups. So again, for me, not being able to wall run or glide is not a deal breaker, but it makes sense because the maps don't feel insanely big that I feel like I need a vehicle or a glider, but it is large enough that I feel like I am exploring and there is a lot of dense or open space for me to move around. This is one way that Endfield excels in exploration. It's not too big, despite not having vehicles or wall running or other movement techniques we see in other games nowadays. And it's just right for what movement tools we do have. Now, one minor nitpick, however, is, I will say, not exactly related to exploration, but I have to say it, is during dialogues where I would love to take a screenshot of a frame, maybe because the scenery is nice, or because of character's expression, or because the scene looks nice. You know, lots of your favorite streamers and VTubers do this. And usually we can hide the UI, but for some reason we can't. I swear to God, Endfield, you have such a good thing going with your photo mode, but a basic thing like this you don't have? I really wish this is something they patch. I already put that in the feedback and survey that they asked for, so hopefully they do address it soon. Now that I mentioned the photo mode, that is another thing I am glad this game launched with. As someone who really values photo mode a lot in games, this is a big W for me. Now, granted, the photo mode is not as in-depth as most single-player photo modes, and even, for example, Where Winds Meet photo mode, where I can use it mid-combat, to freeze a frame and take a nice screenshot from whatever angle I choose. And I swear, I am begging, please, games that have sick combat like this, I implore and beg to add a photo mode that is capable of me pausing the game mid-combat to take shots like this, especially when I am not, say, in co-op mode with other players. I have done this in Zenless Zone Zero. I have done this in Wuthering Waves. There are so many sick frames in combat. I wish I could just pause so I can perfectly align like the camera, adjust the angle to take a screenshot that I want because the visuals are nice, the animations are nice, and for some reason I can't. Seriously, recently the only game I could do that is Where Winds Meet, and I am sad that Endfield is another great game with great combat, with great visuals, but the photo mode doesn't support combat. So please, the photo mode might be your first exposure to this game as well before its release, as we all know the all too viral meme of Flourite practically breaking the fourth wall by saying you are a naughty endmin, as you are trying to take a very, shall we say, near automata-esque photo angle of Flourite. Now, every character has this, and you have to figure out which camera angle triggers it. It could be behind them, it could be on their sides, or it could be in front. Now, after you do Endfield things with Endmin, you are now introduced to the giant elephant in the room, recreated with the chiral, not chiral network, 3D printed, kind of, dispatched by Endfield Industries, the legendary PAC. Now, this is where things really get going, or when you quit the game because this is not your thing, and that is totally fine, by the way. You are introduced to one of, if not, in my opinion, the marquee feature of the game, the factory. Most memes, I think, of this game, and most of what people are sharing all over the internet in regards of guides, tips, and whatnot, revolves around the gameplay of the factory, more so than combat and exploration. With resources you gather in the overworld by installing mining drills or gathering some plants, you are then thrown into the role of a factory-running CEO. You will process, refine these ores into materials that you can use to craft facilities, more advanced materials, and even make your own automated seed picking and planting loop so you don't have to go around gathering plants yourself. Outside of materials such as character EXP, weapon EXP, which come from, energy-based content that regenerates over time, the rest of what you will need will come from the factory. Healing items, exploration items like grenades, even the gear that you will equip on your characters, they will come from the factory. So what people grind for in that aspect is PAC expansions, efficient production routes, exploration facilities like zip lines, and easy storage facilities to make exploration a lot less of a hassle, especially since we cannot glide or wall run. Now, it will take a lot of patience to absorb all of this info and actually try to apply that info with what the game tries to teach you in this regard. And even with how many simulation tutorials they have for every facility, it will take time and effort to actually understand. So I wish you luck in that regard, and I will make a guide on it in the near future, so please look forward to that. Now, next, of course, is the gacha of the game, which, hilariously, I have seen mixed views on it. And if you ask me how I think about it, I'll give you a very simple response. Number one, I really like it. Number two, it helps those who have not so good luck, which is categorically and mathematically, that's most people who play gacha games. And number three, it is different from your traditional gacha system in games. I'll try to explain it as simple as possible without sacrificing any crucial info. Quick info to get out of the way. The game technically has no weapon banner, so we'll put that out now. The game has two banners, the limited and standard banner, which already is something you might be familiar if you play Genshin, HSR, Zenless Zone Zero, Wuwa, Umamusume, etc. The limited banner system, however, is very different. The banner the limited banner, I think of it as an entire season of characters you can get with one featured character, with one character being featured at a certain period of time. Now, still being similar with other gachas, the limited banner, of course, has a 50-50. Now, currently, you can get Levatin, Gilberta, or Yvonne. But the guaranteed banner, whose portrait is literally on the banner right now, is Levatin. Now, which means when you reach the maximum pity, which is 120, you will get that character. Now, 120 is less than 180 or 160 pity that most games have. And you might be thinking, what's the catch? Like, that is a lot of pulls less. What's the catch? Here's the catch. If you are lucky, you might lose the 50-50, say, after 30, 40 pulls. And then you get insanely lucky. You might be thinking, oh, I lost 50-50, which means the next time I see the luckiest thing I can get, in this case a 6-star, which is an S rank or a 5-star equivalent in other gacha games, you're guaranteed to get it, right? No. Not here. That's the game changer. The 50-50, right? The game changer is that the 50-50 you lose might be Gilberta and Yvonne, who, by the way, are not even quote-unquote active as the guaranteed pity character. And this is how it is very different. I'll use Wuwa as an example. So, Linné was the banner before Mornier, but both of them are on the same season of Wuwa. If you lose the 50-50, the character you might get instead of Linné in the usual sense is the standard banner characters. But if we take this into the context of Endfield, it's not just the standard banner characters. You can also get Mornier, who is technically not out yet or released. Now, the catch, like I mentioned earlier, if you are lucky, you might get Levatin on your 20th pull, or you might get another 6-star character from the standard banner, or the limited banner characters that are scheduled for the season, like Gilberta or Yvonne. Now, the problem here is, like I said, if you pull another 6-star, there is no guarantee that it's going to be Levatin, even though you lost the 50-50. Right? I'll give an example, or I'll give you a case. If I lose 50-50 to Yvonne, or maybe a standard banner like Pogranichnik, that means that my next 6-star pull should be Levatin, right? In the context of just about every gacha game out there like ZZZ or Wuwa. In Endfield, no, that is not the case. There is no guarantee after losing a 50-50. The only guarantee you will get Levatin or whoever is featured on the limited banner happens at the 120th pull. Now, the trade-off, of course, is the amount you need to reach the guaranteed pity, which is less than your usual gacha. And on your road to pulling 120 times, you will get a couple of free 10 pulls, and you will even get a special 10 pull that is reserved for the next featured banner that you must use because it does expire. And to add to that layer of how does luck work, right? Let's say you have pulled 119 times for Levatin, but you did not get her. You're probably going to think, okay, I'm just gonna save that last pull and then pull on Gilberta when she goes live, right? Unfortunately, that is not the case because pity doesn't carry over. So how pity works in this game is a little bit complicated and different from your traditional pity system. So you might have heard the term building pity. That is kind of possible here, but according to the wording of the game, building pity only works leading up to pull number 80. Because on pull 80, you are guaranteed a 6-star character. That 6-star character can be from the limited banner or the standard banner, and that also includes the featured banner character. So, because of that, in addition to the suggestion that most people have, right, of save 120 pulls or don't pull at all, if you are not particularly targeting a specific character in the current season, then you will want to pull like at pull 80 if you just want a 6-star in general. But of course, the suggested one, of course, is if there is a character that you absolutely want, then save 120 pulls and then spend that on a banner. But if you are someone who wants, say, an S rank, sorry, not an S rank, if you just want any 6-star to fill your roster, then just save up to 80 pulls. Save up to 80 pulls. The only pity that carries over are your pulls that build up until 80. And according to the game, that does carry over to the next banner. But again, the wording is very, very weird that I really recommend just saving either 80 pulls and then spend it, or just save 80 pulls or 120 pulls and then spend it on one banner. My personal advice in this situation is that if, for example, if you want Levatin and Gilberta, ask yourself which one is the priority. Do you want Gilberta or do you want Levatin more than the other? If you want Gilberta more than Levatin, then make sure you save 120 rolls for Gilberta's banner so that you are guaranteed to reach Gilberta. If you lose the 50-50 a couple of times in that banner, then hope that who you get in that 50-50 that is not Gilberta is Levatin. Now again, depending on how you view the gacha system of this game, this system may be better or worse than your idea of the quote-unquote ideal gacha system. This system is very different from most gachas that I have played and I play in general. And personally, I like this one. It's not perfect. It has its pros and cons, but I can see the vision. It doesn't exactly reward people who are insanely lucky, but it does try to alleviate the stress and fear of FOMO for people who are unlucky or who are purely free-to-play, which is honestly the larger chunk of gacha and free-to-play player bases, and that is honestly okay. Will I be able to do insane gacha things like lose 50-50 on a standard banner and then my next single pull I'll get a featured banner character? No, that is not guaranteed. But I know that my currency grind only needs to be 120 pulls, which is way less than 160 or 180 pulls. Granted, it is a long grind, that's a lot to save, but I think that is good. So we have talked about the gacha, we have talked about the factory, and we've talked a little bit about the combat. What's my current verdict? Honestly, the factory game stands out so much to me that I worry less about the gacha and more about how efficient my factory is. Now, an example of that, like, is my yield more than my output? How fast am I producing these health packs to sell to an outpost? Etc, etc. Other than that, the combat is layered enough for me to experiment with different party combinations and role archetypes that it has just been a blast so far. Now, as for the story, I am taking my time with it, and like I said, I have been a fan of Arknights since Endfield. So my knowledge about the lore and whatnot is practically non-existent. So I am looking forward into seeing how the team behind the game will take that into account, since I am sure they know that a good amount of players have never played Arknights before. So they have to take that into consideration when they design their storytelling and narrative. I have been wowed by the likes of Wuthering Waves, Xenozone Zero stories, and I'm looking forward to seeing those kind of story beats in this game. After all, stories in gacha games like these are piecemeal. They are given to us through patches that we wait for, which can take weeks or months. This is why eventually you will hit at some point with like WoA or ZZZ. You log in and play like less than an hour. You just get the chores done, your dailies done, your weeklies done, spend your energy so you don't go past the cap, and then that's it. You wait for the next event or story patch, which I think is fine. Their gameplay is a priority, of course, since that is why we will boot up the game every day especially after we finish an episode of the story and play more than just for the story. What will keep us emotionally invested, of course, for the long term is the story, which is still very important in my opinion for any game. Without it, after all, a gacha game feels more like a chore instead, which I think is not good. Chores can be fun, but a game should be a game, not a chore. And all in all, I am very hopeful for this game. I am really looking forward to what the team will do from here on out, and I sincerely hope they handle this game with love and care, because this game really does feel fresh for me. And generally, I have seen members or people of the Endfield community overall like the game so far. They have their own comments, but they're not like hateful. They are generally like, yeah, we have our complaints, we have our praises for this game, and we want this game to succeed. And I am more or less on the same boat as them. I like this game so far. I have my complaints, I have my praises, I have my expectations, and I genuinely want this game to succeed. And that is it for my very long first impressions of this game. I will be making a guide or two on this game about the combat and the factory system, which give me time because I want to do a proper one, and this game can be complicated. All right? Please look forward to it. Have a good day and have a good time gaming, Foxtrot.